Hi, and welcome to College Planning Untangled, where we simplify the college planning process for families. I'm Kristin Clark, and I work with high school and college age students to help them figure out a career path and ultimately a college major or another educational path, depending on their goals. And I'm here with Bobby Hood. Bobby is our SAT, ACT, MCAT, LSAT, all the ATs coach, and also helps with college applications and that kind of stuff for his clients. So, Bobby, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I thought today we would talk a little bit about college essays because I hope a lot of the rising seniors are already working on them, right? Have got a draft out already, but I bet they haven't all started doing it. They've all been saying I should start, right?
Yeah. So keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've talked
You are
about
the
yeah,
designer.
yeah. So, we've a big part of what we're talking about is, how to simplify the college planning process and to like learn how to eliminate those fights that you get in, right? Because like if you follow our college planning checklist, one of the things we talk about is like once a week, talk about things like set a time each week where you talk about college planning and so that you're not just randomly just bringing it up every single day or whatever. And for the rising seniors, you've been having fun so far in the summer, but you're going to need to get these essays written, and if you don't start them in the summer, it's going to get really bad. And now technically you can't start typing in your essays into the Common App until next month, right? Until I think August 1st is when you can actually start filling it out, right? But you need to go ahead and get those essay drafts like started, right? Because otherwise you're going to find yourself like way behind, and you're going to be in school and you're going to be really busy with senior year, and it's going to be hard to find the time to work on it.
Yeah.
Right?
And Bobby, too, you get under the gun. So
Yeah.
it's like right now, there's not a lot of pressure.
Mhm.
You should have a couple hours you can carve out a week just
Mhm.
to sit down. And where do they find the Common App questions?
So if you just go to commonapp.org, that's where the everything about Common App is there. And if you just type in Common App essay prompts, you can find the list of essay prompts. And I can actually put them in the
I've got it
chat
in
here.
there.
Okay.
I'm putting it
Yeah.
in there
Okay. Good.
for you, Bobby.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. And so basically, so you can go and look up the college applications for each college you're going to apply to. And most colleges, you will be submitting your application to the colleges through the Common App, where you put in your resume, you put in your transcript, you put in your activities, you put in all that stuff. And also you'll put in the essays. And some colleges will specify exactly which Common App essays you can choose from. They might tell you you have to do this particular one or one of these particular ones. They usually don't allow all 7 essays to be a choice, right? So also some colleges will have a question that is not in the Common App that is an additional question that you have to answer. They also will probably have short answer essay prompts that are shorter. But the main thing is, get probably your 2 favorite college Common App essay prompts, write essays for those, right? So that you've got those 2 choices, and most colleges will have one of those 2 as one of the options that you can do.
Okay.
And then you can adapt it. Yep.
Okay. That's where I was going to go.
Right.
It's like you might not pick the right 2 for your
Absolutely.
college.
Right.
Okay.
And so the point is, once you've got one written, right, then you can adapt that essay into all the different formats, right? And that's a big part of it, right? But so it's probably easier if we just dive into them and start talking about it.
Let's do that because, the hardest part, as is coming up with the story. And
Absolutely.
yeah. And we've talked about before, the few things to resist talking about. One is how much you saw how different cultures are the same and different than your own because you've traveled to Europe and you've traveled to, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, well, we've seen a lot of this as far as the applications. And some of the people reading these might be going, oh boy, poor little rich girl. She got to go to all these places and I'm sitting here reading essays. To be quite frank, right? So it's like, okay, guys, that's been there, done that. Don't do it.
Absolutely. So you're right. Traditionally, there are these, the first thing that occur to you is to write about moving experiences in your life. And of course, traveling or going to summer camp, going to church camp, those are very moving experiences. But it's such a common thing that the admissions officers have read a million essays like that. And the only goal is to write something that shows something about your own personality and who you are. And in theory, the goal is to write something that nobody else is going to write. And so if your strength is you learned how to make really good sandwiches during COVID, you could write about that and have that be a great essay. And that would be a heck of a lot more interesting than,
I got cut from the football team.
Exactly. Right. I had this challenge.
Lots of people have, right?
But when you look at these prompts, yeah, you're going to see how it would be easy to start with something like that, right? Now, the first essay prompt is: some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that's so meaningful that they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. So this is, I think, the number one. If you can answer that question, that's a great prompt to answer, right? Which is, what are your strengths? What makes you light up and get excited, right? And a lot of students don't know how to talk about that about themselves, right?
Sometimes I've got a solution for that.
Yeah. What is yours? Tell us about it.
Your Clifton Strengths.
Yep.
By going out and doing your Clifton Strengths assessment, they help you understand your talents, where you might go, oh, that's special. And I didn't even know it was special because I just do it.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, when you took me through my Clifton Strengths, and I was 50 years old and I went through this and I said, okay, I always knew that I liked collecting information and I liked explaining things to people and I liked writing things down about it. But first thing I didn't know how to describe that in words, right? And I didn't realize that was like the defining feature of what makes me light up and get excited, right? And so at any age, right, learning your strengths can help you explain yourself. And a good way to do that is, yes, certainly students who haven't worked with you yet to figure out what their strengths are, this would be a great time, if you are having trouble figuring out what to write in your essays. Well, this is a great time to work one-on-one with Kristin and figure out what your strengths are and learn information about that. It'll also help you start figuring out what your college major should be. Because if you have an idea of what your college major should be, you ought to be mentioning that in your college applications, right? A lot of colleges want to know which college you're applying to, where, like if you want to be an engineering major, you have to tell most colleges, you have to tell them that in your application. So that you get accepted into the engineering school. Otherwise, you might not be allowed to take those engineering classes.
And I'll tell you, Bobby, we're talking about writing about something that's special, right? Mm-hmm. Really understanding why you want to get into a certain major because of an idea of a career path that you want to do is kind of special, because not everybody knows that.
Absolutely.
Right? So, yeah. And at the core of this, that's what we're talking about. It's like finding something special that is meaningful. So what's the second question?
So the second prompt is a tough one. The lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience? This one is hard to write because the only failures that often come to mind or setbacks are usually related to their extracurriculars. I hurt my leg and then I had to rehab or whatever, or our team lost the first 2 games of the season. We had to come back and win. And those are not good essay prompts, those are not good essay topics to write about because they've seen a million of them. But if you do have a story of overcoming a challenge or setback or failure, it can be an incredibly powerful essay, right? But that's one of those things where it needs to be an actual thing that isn't just something like getting hurt or something like that, right?
And and Bobby, and it goes back to, it's got to have this element of something special. Mm-hmm. And I kind of, that's where this one gets hard, I think, is coming up with that little spin that is interesting and special. So it may be a mundane thing. It may be right?
Absolutely.
But this is where have conversations, talk about these things and how can you spin doctorate a little bit to make it special?
Absolutely. And so the thing is, this could be like, you could have a college where this is one of the only two options, and you might need to write this essay, right? And if you need to write the challenge, setback, or failure essay, I mean, you can talk about how, when you went from 9th grade to 10th grade or 8th grade to 9th grade, you suddenly were not as organized as you needed to be. And you had some real challenges in classes, like especially if you had a low 9th grade GPA, but then it's improved and now your GPA is really good. That needs to be addressed in your essays somewhere anyway. So that would be a good thing. It's like, how did you overcome it? And how do you now know that you are prepared for college? What is different about you as a high school senior compared to when you were in 8th grade, right? That's a good way to write about that. Okay, so the third one, another really challenging one. Reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking? What was the outcome? So that is a very, very tough essay to write. But I have seen essays. I have had students that I helped with essays that, they had a new student come into school and they became friends with them, and people were making fun of that student, and they kind of helped, like champion that student, help them get integrated into school. But that's still, even that is a dicey, choice of topic, because it makes it sound like you're the savior who saved someone else, right? But, this is a very serious topic to choose. And so it needs to be something that you actually did and can write intelligently about, right?
Well, you know what? I think of your niece, that she, when she was doing her work with the mentally disabled kids at school,
Absolutely.
and I know there's a program named to that, but what a nice spin to say, wow, I helped this kid get acclimated, but it got me so excited about working with this type of group that now
Absolutely.
Here's something that I'm doing with it.
Yes, I think my niece did write an essay like that on this. I think she did use this prompt and said, hey, I basically built this Best Buddies organization to be, at multiple schools and all that. And it helped disabled students, feel welcome. And it absolutely challenged the idea, because in high school, there's so much of making fun of kids with disabilities. And she challenged that idea and said, we need to welcome it. Make students who have challenges feel completely part of the thing. So yeah, if you've done that, great essay topic to do, right? But then now the other ones, these are some really good ones. And this one, I think this is a new one, is reflect on something someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? So this is not, in the past, they did not have this essay topic. And this is a really great essay topic, except you can imagine the topics that you should not answer, right? My grandparents gave me a trust fund is not a good thing to think about, to write about being thankful about. Or I got the opportunity to spend the summer in Italy is not a thing to write about how you're thankful.
I'll give you one. Right? And this is just for my, just as an example. When I was out networking and met the lady that introduced me to Clifton Strengths, and she helped me understand why I hated my work for the last 5 years. So Absolutely. I completely now I do something completely different with my work. That's an unexpected, dang, I thought I was just going for coffee. And I walked out with a life-changing idea.
Right. So this, I could see, some essay topics like, I was feeling really negative about a thing, and then this teacher or this coach helped me see things from a new perspective, and it changed my whole direction. And so now I'm this person. So you can see how you can use sports and coaches and things, but it's like, how did I change as a person? Not how did my leg get better after I injured it, right?
And Bobby, even, as parents listening, I even think it could be somebody told me I was good at something.
Yeah,
and they gave me that little head nod that I needed.
For sure.
To completely change how I approached something, and now I'm the da-da-da-da-da.
Absolutely. And I think, and it's just such a positive topic that you could really be able to write something, I think, very powerful, right?
Yeah.
This also ties in with the next one, which is discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others, which to me is almost the exact same thing, right? Except it's not necessarily. The last one was something someone else did for you. This is just something that happened that helped you grow personally. right? And just or a realization you had. I think that can be very powerful. And I think that a lot of students who work with you or take your course on Clifton Strengths probably are going to end up writing essays that are like, oh, I discovered this strength and now I know my passion. And now now I'm doing volunteer activities related to it, and things like
Yeah,
that.
or now I understand why I do these certain things.
Mhm.
So I'm leaning into that. And now here's how it changed, who I am. I love that.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then the next one is, I think, the most fun of them all. Describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging that it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? So this one has been there on for a few years. And this is absolutely, if you can identify something that actually makes you feel that way, then and you have this option as an essay, you should absolutely write this, because if you can write about the thing that makes you light up and get excited, your personality is going to come through when you write about it, right? And one of the tricks is pretend you're talking to your best friend and just telling them why you like this thing, and then write down what you just said and make that your essay.
Okay,
right?
and I'm going to give a prompt for parents on this one.
Mhm.
What to look for, okay?
Mhm.
When they see a kid that they start talking about a topic and they
Mhm.
sit up straighter, their voice goes up a little bit, and they lean in. And I've seen this in kids, when we're talking about career paths and stuff, and you can just see their face. I'm not kidding, Bobby. It's like this inner glow that happens. If you can spot your kid ever doing that,
Yeah.
you got gold right there.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And then the very last one is just share an essay on a topic of your own choice, one that you've already written or whatever. You're not going to see that very often as as an essay prompt. But if they have that, you should just, share the essay topic of the other topic that, use one of the other topics that you already wrote, unless you happen to have written some sort of essay during high school that won awards and, was like published in a magazine or something. Yeah, if you've done that, then yeah, you might want to share something like that. But you're probably not going to see that essay as an option. That's just there for a catch-all for colleges that want to include.
Okay, and for the parents that are listening, number one, if you've got any questions, please
Mhm.
throw them into the chat. But here's the other piece of this, Bobby, that I want
Yeah.
parents to really understand. And don't get in there and edit your own kid's essay.
Absolutely.
Don't do it.
Right. Absolutely. Admissions officers know when parents have edited high schoolers' essays. Like, specifically, if you have typed any words in there, they will know, because they can just see it. Like, literally, as when I read essays and I get suddenly to a sentence and the voice changes, suddenly there are two spaces after periods instead of one. There's different construction of sentences. And you just know, oh, this part was not written by the student, right?
Yep.
You don't realize it, but there is an article from the New Yorker a couple of years ago called "I Know Your High School." I know that you wrote your high school's high schooler's essay or whatever by a college admissions officer. Yeah, absolutely. You can read it and give feedback, but I think everyone should understand it is extremely important that somebody other than parents who has some experience with this look at this essay. I do that for students sometimes. There are people who do it as the only thing they do as college admissions essays, right?
But also, this is, I think, a great time to use your college counselor. I'm sorry, your high school counselor as well. You're a great teacher at school might look at it for you, that you have a relationship with. So that would be another thing. You have these kids start having relationships with people at at their school. But the other thing that I want to really tell parents is this, Bobby. I think it'd be great to have the conversation beforehand and help them recall different times in their life that they did stuff. I mean, that's, I think, where the parents have the most.
That's where parents can help. Absolutely. Which is you can help with the figuring out the ideas, right? Because the hardest part of this is getting something down on paper. And the process is write something down, no matter how terrible it is, but just write something down. And it will be terrible the first draft. And then often when a student sends me their first draft, I say, okay, I see here in the very last paragraph, you have these two sentences. That sounds like you. That sounds like your point. Okay, take those two sentences, move them back to the beginning, delete everything else, now write the essay. And then you start getting some, right? And then at the end, you can clean up, have people help clean up, make sure you don't have any grammar errors or spelling errors, right? But the main thing is just getting something down on paper and then having other people look at it and see if it sounds like you, right? Does this sound like me? Right.
Yeah.
And that's it. And we're always happy to answer questions, and, so contact us if you want more input on this. And I really encourage students to go and work with Kristin on their Clifton strengths. I think the moment you do that, you will know so much more about how to begin this, right?
And who you are. Yeah. And I just say one other thing on that, Bobby, is for parents, help your student understand that this isn't a homework assignment.
Right.
This isn't your normal homework assignment. This is, hey, listen, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? You know, you're applying for college. This is 4 years of your life. You know, think about the person that you want to be. And, that's where we're going here. This has more gravity than, I just need to, fill out this.
Yeah, bang something out and just put some stuff in there, right?
Put some time into it, right?
Absolutely.
All right. I think that was helpful, Bobby.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess I'll see you next week. This is excellent.
All right. Talk then.
Bye-bye.